Today on the CTV News at 5.
He doesn't have a voice, and I want to be his voice.
We hear from the family at the center of a fatality inquiry into the death of a 17-year-old. Plus, Canada's first wind farm is shut down after one of the turbines is bent in half. And
blocks of Steph Mar pulls the trigger.
A Southern Alberta broadcasting legend is about to hit a big milestone.
CTV News with Jackie Scantlebury.
Good afternoon. The family of a Lethbridge teen who jumped to his death from the high-level bridge says they want to stop others from doing the same thing. The fatality inquiry into Michael Ferguson's death wrapped up today. The 17-year-old died in July of 2010. As Kayla Carr reports, the family is committed to saving others from the same tragedy.
If I can just save one.
Valerie Ferguson is fighting on behalf of her son Michael. The 17-year-old fled the psychiatric ward at the Chinook Regional Hospital in July 2010 and jumped to his death from the high-level bridge. Valerie and other family members are taking part in a fatality inquiry at the Lethbridge courthouse. The purpose of the inquiry isn't to find legal responsibility, but to help prevent similar deaths in the future.
He doesn't have a voice, and I want to be his voice, and so does his sister and his dad, saying that, I believe changes have to be made.
During the 3-day inquiry, court heard Michael had been suffering from depression, low self-esteem, and drug addiction. His sister, Kelly Ray Aldridge, testified her brother was fascinated with suicide. On July 8, 2010, Lethbridge police found Michael on the high-level bridge. He was taken to the hospital where he was involuntarily admitted as a psych patient. The next day, his doctor signed him out on a temporary leave pass to go outside for a cigarette with his family. Once outside, he fled. During closing statements today, several recommendations were made, including creating a secure outside area for hospital patients, installing video surveillance and netting below the bridge deck, and having safety lines for police officers who have to go up on the bridge.
I'm really hoping that they take their recommendations and not necessarily just hear them, but actually implement them, because other kids, feel like committing suicide too, and if they can prevent it with any kind of things, that would be really good.
Court also heard from CP rail officials who say they are constantly evaluating ways and measures to prevent suicide and trespassers on the bridge. This week, they'll be installing signs on both entrances with this message: life is worth living. If you need help, call the Suicide Crisis Line. Justice Fred Coward will now prepare his report for the Alberta Solicitor General. While Michael's family waits to see what, if any, recommendations will be made, they say they will continue to fight for what Michael would have wanted.
Michael was a very giving soul. He always worried about others before himself and kids and making people happy. And I believe that would be his wish, that something good from him leaving would come from this, that we could save somebody else.
Kayla Carr, CTV News, Lethbridge.
There is no timeline for when Judge Coward's report will be released. Now, 2 people were lucky to escape serious injury in a car-train collision at Fort Macleod. The 2 occupants of a Pontiac Grand Prix were taken to Fort Macleod Hospital, where they were treated and released. The driver of the vehicle has been charged for failing to stop at a railway crossing when warning lights are going. RCMP say the car switched lanes to pass a school bus when it was hit by the train engine. Traffic on Highway 3 was closed in both directions for about 2 hours while RCMP and CP Rail Police conducted an investigation. They say the lights and bells at the crossing were working properly. Alcohol was not a factor. Canada's original wind farm in southern Alberta is shut down after one of the turbines bent in half. One of the steel towers in the Cowley Ridge wind farm buckled Friday afternoon, collapsing the turbine. TransAlta says its technicians suspect that the blades had broken and the irregular rotation weakened the structure. The company immediately turned off the entire wind farm. All 57 turbines will be shut down for about 2 weeks for an inspection. TransAlta says the closure won't affect capacity.
You know what, it's 20 megawatts of electricity, so it's a small portion of the provincial grid, of an extremely small portion. So I wouldn't expect it to have a great deal of an impact.
And coincidentally, the 18-year-old turbines were scheduled for maintenance this spring. Hello, Dory Rossiter, and hello, great temperatures. We like the weather you're bringing us. Very nice.
Yeah, I thought you might be positive about what's coming. Speaking of positive, boy, these are really positive numbers. Wait till you see them in the 5-day forecast. We've got a Pacific area of high pressure that has rolled into southern Alberta. In advance of that, of course, a warm front, and that's really going to impact us as we head into tomorrow. Not that today was too shabby. It was nice to be in the positive numbers, but boy, we're in for a warm spell. I'll tell you all about it in a couple of minutes.
And we will stay tuned for that. Thanks, Dory. A couple displaced by a weekend fire have no place to stay after today. Thomas and Stephanie lived on the main floor of a home that caught fire Saturday. Fire, smoke and water damage made the Southside house unlivable for the 14 people who called it home. And for the past few days, the couple has been staying at the Sandman Inn. The accommodation was provided by the local Red Cross, but today is the last day the organization will pay for them to stay in a hotel. Thomas and Stephanie do have a place to rent starting April 1st, but they need a place to live until then. They say they're running out of options.
We've called like 13, 14 places in the last 24 hours. Nobody's given us a phone call back yet, so it's getting pretty rough. We're starting to look of going back home and just quitting our jobs, and it's gonna have to be pushed that way. I'd rather stay here.
If you're able to help the couple with a rental place until April 1st, you can call 403-929-0602. A family of 11 originally from Togo, Africa lived in the basement, and they have made arrangements for somewhere to live. The Alberta Medical Association says it's sick of doctors being cut out of the healthcare decision-making progress. So it took its concerns to the health minister and other politicians in a town hall.
With respect to emergency room wait times, we do have issues.
About 200 people attended the meeting last night in Calgary, throwing questions at a panel made up of Health Minister Fred Horn and political opponents, and one of the people on that panel being Lethbridge West NDP candidate Shannon Phillips. The town hall was called by the Alberta Medical Association. Discussion centered around access and wait times. Although intended to bring healthcare issues into the light, political candidates say it often sounded like an election campaign.
And we often find that the trail of breadcrumbs leads back to experiments with privatization in long-term care.
The Alberta Medical Association is hosting a town hall meeting in Edmonton on Monday. Well, the man many expect will go up against Barack Obama in this fall's U.S. presidential election has a strong ally right here in southern Alberta, and he's originally from Taber. Calgary dentist Donald Miller was Republican candidate Mitt Romney's senior partner while the two were Mormon missionaries in France in the late 1960s. Miller says he remembers Romney as a very intelligent person and someone who would often play the devil's advocate in arguments and debates to learn what others were thinking. Dr. Miller says he still keeps in touch with Romney and will meet with him later this month to catch up.
We've, exchanged Christmas cards and talked to him from time to time on the phone.
And you still do that? Or?
Next, and I think it's 2 weeks from now, I was invited to a luncheon in California in Newport Beach.
And Miller says he's been watching the presidential race with great interest, and he believes that Romney would make a great president. Speaking of elections, University of Lethbridge students are going to the polls today. Online voting for the Students' Union election is now underway. 19 candidates are running for 16 campus executive positions. It's an important job as the council's yearly budget has grown to over $3.5 million. But as outgoing members are saying, it can also be a very rewarding experience.
A student union really does have a significant effect on their lives, whether it's from representation on university committees to advocating on their behalf up in Edmonton and in Ottawa to the wide range of services and events that we host. And if your intentions are true and you have the right passions and a few good ideas, you're going to do well. And there are more students out there who have those talents than really realize. So do it, get involved, and you'll make a difference, and you will be rewarded personally for it as well.
Candidates' bios are posted on the Student Union website. Online voting ends Friday, 3 o'clock. For the first time in 19 years, there will be no thunder in the valley in the Crow's Nest Pass. The MD of the Crow's Nest Pass has decided to cancel this year's fireworks display for financial reasons. And they say Rum Runner Days, though, will continue as planned. It's scheduled for July the 19th to the 22nd in Blairmore. Reality television producers are back in town once again looking for Canada's worst driver. As you may remember, the runner-up from last season was from Lethbridge. 40-year-old delivery driver Sly Grosjean finished second on season 7 of the show. His brother-in-law, Fred, nominated Sly because he has difficulty with directions and he used to rely on his phone's GPS to get the job done. Well, now the show's producers are back looking for another Sly, and some of you had ideas on who you would nominate.
Anyone who speeds.
That's it?
I don't know of anybody like that, no.
Well, about half the population.
They're all that bad?
It's bad.
Worst drivers in the country?
Drivers.
That I've had. In the country, do you know anybody that would fit the bill?
I don't.
Nobody comes to mind that's
Nobody that I can say, sorry.
And nominations are being accepted until the end of the month by calling 1-866-598-2591 or sending an email to driver@propertelevision.com. The show is scheduled to begin production this spring. Students and staff at Lethbridge High School are getting pumped up to help others. Members of Lethbridge Collegiate Institute held a pep rally to support several local causes, including one that affects a student. Michelle Boyven-Carrier's father died recently, and her legal guardian is in Ontario. Michelle wants to stay in Lethbridge to graduate high school and attend university, but may not have the financial support. The fundraiser event was themed after the popular book series The Hunger Games. Students say the theme embodies the spirit of community.
We want to get people thinking about philanthropy and doing things for others. And in Michelle's case, they need money for her house, and so we're going to raise that up at our pep rally today, and hopefully get some people to think about and donate money to her cause, and get people thinking about getting involved in their community and what that means.
To donate to any of the causes the school is supporting, you can contact LCI High School. Well, to the markets today, where the loonie rebounded on an up note. Here are the day's closing numbers.